All right, well, on par as usual, we got the Monday market report for the week ending June 2nd, 2024. Well, I think we have officially made our way into the summer months. All right, and this is going to be a very interesting time. There are certain things this year that feel a little bit different than it was last year. Most notably, it's an election year. That kind of has a little push and pull kind of sway to the market. I mean, we're certainly seeing it in precious metals. It's quite interesting to see how things are being influenced by that alone. So yeah, it's kind of atypical for this time of year. Now, last year around the same time, the market just kept on plugging along. It was very consistent activity through all of the major auction sites. Was pretty robust. I mean, this week we do have the Long Beach Expo that's happening in Southern California. That's like one of the bigger shows all throughout the year. So there's going to be a lot of what I like to call kind of temperature check events throughout the summer that'll play kind of a role into how the graded market's doing. Now, if this is your first time here on the Monday Market Report videos, it's really simple, guys. We take a look at what I like to call the most influential, kind of like the part and the segment of the hobby that usually has some sort of effect throughout the entire market first, and that's the modern graded market. All right, so we look at coins generally graded and dated from the year 1900 all the way up to the current date. And the reason why that we look at this specific generation of coins is that, well, registry sets is something that is highly influential. It's very popular for now, and usually if the modern market is performing at a really high level, so will the rest of the market. Your Civil War dates, your federal age of coinage, which is typically late 1700s, early 1800s, and then you have the colonials, and then you have a bunch of other different segments within that also are influenced as well. All right, so if the modern market's performing good, then the rest of the market is going to follow suit. Whereas, if the modern market is beginning to look a little shaky, that might be some sort of warning sign, for the entire numismatics market. So we'll keep an eye on this all throughout the summer. Again, it's going to be interesting. We have a fair amount of really nice coins. Nothing like the $25,000 1960s small date that we talked about last week. Things are kind of toned down here this week, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that the Long Beach Expo is kind of running concurrently with Great Collections auctions. Even though Great Collections, I believe, will be at the expo, they're not going to put all of their high-powered stuff out there that normally commands that 5-figure price tag or higher. All right, so as normal with these videos, something that I've been doing is I've been selling on the platform Whatnot. 10,000 followers achieved. We are about 10,032 followers on the platform. So we finally hit it. We blast through it. That's awesome. I'm thankful for all of my patrons, the guys and gals that have supported me on the platform. I've always wanted to sell coins online. Didn't want to do it on YouTube. Whatnot seems to be the best, bar none, avenue for that. And, they sought me out. And I'm like, yeah, let's give it a try. I've always wanted to do something of this magnitude somewhere. All right. And then here we are. So because we hit 10,000 followers, excuse me, we have deployed, a pretty big milestone. That's going to be the Gold Rush giveaway, which will be announced, I would say, tomorrow, June 4th. Okay, we have a show in the evening, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. Although it's not reflected on there. I don't have two shows at 5 and 8. All right, I have one show at 5 Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. I'm sorry about the typo. And the same for Friday too. So one show at 5 on the Pacific side, and it starts at 8 p.m. on the East Coast. So sorry to confuse you there. I will make the announcement of some of the items that we will be giving away as a result of hitting 10,000 followers It's going to be a lot of fun. And if you've never joined up onto the program, this platform, to be a buyer or a seller, feel free to do so. I got my referral link down below to join up as someone that could buy some stuff on there, whether it's through me or someone else. You'll receive $15 in usable store credit right away on your first item that you buy. It's a lot of fun, trust me. So let's go ahead and jump right into these listings. We have a fair amount of coins to talk about. As a matter of fact, we got about 22 this week. Nice, healthy amount. All right, and then, a 96D Lincoln set is your prototypical, I guess you could say, registry set coin, right? There's really no practical reason why you would invest in this coin outside of being a registry set piece, because that's where it's most meaningful. You wouldn't buy this and say, I'm going to hold on to it for 10 years and sell it for 2x what I bought it for. I mean, that's insane sauce. That's a major L if you plan on doing that, because, as time goes on, there's going to be more of this coin that'll grade out at 69 red, which is the top grade. There might even be a 70 floating around somewhere out there of this coin. And again, the registry set participants, as much as this segment of the hobby is growing, especially in Lincoln sets, we cannot lose sight of the fact that coins like this are not the investable type. Okay, we have other types that fit that mold that we're going to talk about today. All right, so it comes by no surprise that this one ended up selling for $2,742.75. Let that sink in for a little bit, ladies and gentlemen. Can you imagine what that kind of money can pay for? It could do a lot of things. First of all, if we're sticking to numismatics or precious metals, that could easily buy you an ounce of gold today and then have money left over for other things. But as far as practicality, it could pay off a credit card. It could pay 2 months worth of possibly rent. I know rent rates have been going up, and so have mortgages. Mortgage, could probably pay a month's worth of mortgage. I mean, that's kind of a big deal. So you guys can see, just the correlation between this price tag and the kind of immediate, short-term, life-changing money that it represents. So if you're able and you have the ability to have a coin graded this high and then you offload it onto an auction site like Great Collections, take the money and run and never look back. Because this right here, this is the epitome of what makes this hobby great, is that you have the ability to do so. And all it takes is coins that are no older than 30 years old. This is a prime example of that. Same for this one. Now, it is 14 years older compared to the 96 we looked at, but, again, it's the same boat here. 1982, large date. It's even a zinc composition, which really doesn't endear a whole lot to the actual collector community at large, because the composition is just straight up trash. But if you're able to find one that's as clean and presentable as this one without any contact marks, might as well take a flyer on it, Again, not financial advice, but, it's a 69 red. It's for a registry set, and that's it. $1,743.75. Again, still a lot of money here, folks, on a coin that is not even, or it's 42 years old. It's crazy. Same here with this one, 74 registry set, application all the way. Now, there is a little difference here in that this example is graded by NGC. All right. Most purist registry set folks, they want PCGS, but I feel like that narrative is going to change here real soon, and that might actually contribute to a better than performing registry set market, because CACG, the new kid on the block that has kind of made waves in the grading community, they are all in on registry sets too. How is that going to impact the market Over the long term, it's a wait and see game here. But this is a 68 plus red. No doubt in my mind, it's a clean looking coin, but again, we're kind of gambling here if we're sending out multiple units of this particular date to the grading companies in the hopes of a 68 or higher grade. They're just really tough. But the price tag is what really hooks people in. $1,323 on this one was the sold price. Now, last week, we featured just an insurmountable, high-powered 1960 small date Denver Lincoln set that sold for over $25,000. Now, we have what, on paper seems to me that it is the more rare of the two, the Philadelphia or the Denver, as far as small date types are concerned. This is a coin in raw condition that you can pick up for between $8 and $10, while the Denver version is about a quarter. So a pretty substantial difference between the two as far as raw base value. But when it comes to graded specimens, that's where kind of like things kind of change a little bit. This one here is a 67 plus full red example. It says small date on the holder there. $2,317.50 is 1/10 of what that other coin sold for last week. So, the Denver, while it's more plentiful out there as far as population numbers are concerned, they are quite a bit more scarce in grades above 67. And that's the justification for the 10x price value on such a coin. All right, 1954, here's another NGC graded specimen in a 67 red. Now, there's a pretty polarizing difference in value between an NGC graded coin, which is what this one is, and a PCGS one. All right, so let's talk about this one here that ended up selling for $1,800. Now, it's still a registry set caliber coin, but how many of you think that this coin will cross over to PCGS in a 67? It probably doesn't have all that it needs to do that. More than likely it's a 66 grade. But while it's in an NGC holder in a 67, you might as well keep it in there, because anyone who's worth a salt in the grading kind of area of numismatics will understand that this one is not a 67 grade through PCGS's standards. Let me rephrase that. PCGS's standards are a little bit more strict than NGC's. All the while CAC-G is more strict because they adhere to kind of like the old school grading standards of the 1980s, which to a lot of people, a lot of the older generation folks, is how coins should be graded, So again, there's going to be a lot of things that play here that will affect the market. Again, it's a wait and see game as CAC-G, develops into, a registry set option. It's not going to be for the faint at heart because, if they're tougher on grades based off of an old school grading standard that should be upheld today, that's going to change the game quite a bit. But getting back to this one, $1,800 is a fair rate, and PCGS slabs. This one is probably $3,000 to $5,000. It depends if it has a CAC-G stick or a CAC sticker on it. Now we go back quite a bit ways back, and we have entered, one of the coins that I would say is more of an investor piece and a collector piece than it is for a registry set. And that's the 1922 No D plain version of this coin. Now, every 1922 was minted in Denver. All right, but there was an amount of them, don't know how many, that made it through with such mushy strikes and clogged dies that, it was missing the Denver mint mark, and it led people to believe that, they really did mint these at the Philadelphia Mint, but they really didn't. So this one right here features the strong reverse. It's one of 4 reverse dies that was used to produce the entire run of 1922s. The strong reverse are more desirable, okay? And this one is a VF35 grade. It doesn't look like that on the obverse because these were all horribly struck. But when you look at the reverse, it does look like a 35 grade. So this one sold a few dollars shy of $2,000. So even in a VF35, this is a coin that you're going to spend a lot of money on if you are a true Lincoln Cent completionist like me. This is going to be a lot of money that I'm going to have to dump into a coin that doesn't quite look and balance out the rest of the collection that might be otherwise in unk condition. 1909 with the VDB initials on the reverse. This is a stunner, guys. It's a PCGS OGH holder, probably graded in the early 90s, somewhere around there. It is a 67 red grade. It's a beautiful coin. Now, a lot of these were preserved at the highest grade level. It was the first year of the Lincoln Cent, coins. They had Victor David Brenner's initials on the reverse in kind of like this grandiose fashion before the Mint said, Mr. Brenner, we're going to have you remove your initials because it pays too much kind of like attention to your initials and less about the coin. So that's what they did. They ended up taking off VDB off of the reverse and left it completely off the die, for a number of years. So this one right here is a beautiful specimen. It ended up selling for $1,518.75. It's not the highest grade. I've seen the non-SVDBs eclipse $10,000, but they have to be like a 68 grade, and those are few and far between these days. And the final 1 cent denom. And I know we spent a lot of time talking about cents and pennies and all that stuff this week, but there was a lot of care that needed, talking about it because there's a lot to dissect here. So you're staring at one of the more highly coveted 20th century cents. Considering that this is the second year that a mint mark in its physical form is featured on a coin. All right, so that's kind of a big deal. And furthermore, it's a very low mintage coin. It actually shared the production schedule with the 1909 coins of Lincoln Cents design. So obviously this was on its way out. They're like, we got to put all our efforts in the Lincoln Cents. So, there wasn't a whole lot of fanfare or love for this coin. A lot of them were circulated. This one, however, is a gorgeous example with a lot of that improper alloy mix wood grain toning that you gotta love. This is in an NGC old holder, an old soap bar-ish type holder, probably a fatty is what they call it. It's a very thick holder. Mid-State 65 red brown. One of my favorites this week at $2,439. We don't talk about, a 1908 or 9S Indian head cent that often, but when we do, it's quite special to me. All right, we are on to nickels. Okay, nickels showing a little love this week, and there's one particular segment of Jefferson nickels that we're going to talk a little bit about. Okay, not quite this one. It's an 88p registry set all the way. PCGS graded, mid-state 67 with full steps on this one, and it sold for a really big price too at $2,439. This particular date, not really rare in full steps, but a 67 is quite a ridiculous grade to obtain, even on any 1980s date. A lot of these didn't have quite the, quality that you saw in the 90s. 64D, sure. It's a coin that over 1 billion made. So in date fashion and mint mark, it's plentiful. But finding one with full steps is just as rare as any other 50s or other 60s Jefferson nickel. It's quite tough. The strikes were normally not that good on any of these. However, we have one here in a 66 grade, full steps. You can see the steps on there. It looks pretty good. Probably looks better in hand, I would say. $1,631.25 was your hammer price on this one right here. And 52D, another tough one here, in a 67 full steps grade, is going to be in some future registry set, either existing or a new one. Another impressive example, because we just don't see the kind of strikes that we expect or had witnessed from the 40s carry over into the 50s and 60s. It was less care and less quality. So this one right here, ladies and gents, sold for $3,487.50. All right, and coming up next is a series of a few coins, okay? And silver war nickels, the silver manganese compositions. I've kind of noticed a trend with these in that a lot more of the uncirculated examples, whether they're raw or graded, it's really immaterial at this point. They're selling for roughly 15 to 20% higher than they were about 12 months ago. You know how I know? Because I was an active buyer of not only single coins, but actually full BU rolls of these coins over the last 12 to 24 months. I took advantage, by the way, of a burgeoning kind of like time after the pandemic to hone in on certain coins I felt like was underpriced. And sure as shit, the Jefferson nickel silver manganese war era was one of those particular segments that had blossomed into more dedication across many different types of collector groups. And you got to appreciate that. You know, with the 43 Steely Lincoln cents, it always been kind of like a big deal. Now we're seeing war nickels across all the date ranges from 42 to 45 beginning to get some love here. So we got 45D. Now this is kind of like beyond a generic coin in that it's a pretty strong double to die obverse. It's a cherry picker's guide variety, and that's why it's a Favaz Stanton 101. So very impressive. $4,052.24 was the sale price on this one. And not to mention, you know, the toning is very nice on this one. It's not in your face. There's a little accents in there. And that's kind of like one of the things I love about this coin. Here's the 43S. Okay, S minted war nickels. A little bit tougher for strike, but this one kind of blows that out of the water. You know, the strike is just undeniably purely hammered on this one. This one is a scary high 68 full stepper. I mean, it's got that thick tone on both sides of the coin. Whether you love it or hate it, it's on there, and it's 100% original. So this one, okay, $3,892.50. And these prices are just, they're continue to tick upwards. You know, they're not splashy thousands of dollars increases. They're like going up $100, $200, $300 every year. But, you know, it is noticeable for those who are in tune to the market for these coins. All right, so we have the 39 here. It doesn't have full steps. Full steps are kind of tough for the double to die reverse FS801, which is what this one is. I mean, if you look at the doubled Monticello and 5 cents, I mean, this is a knockout coin. CAC, green bean as well. Beautiful lights out example as 67 plus. $7,713. Can you imagine if you had this thing had full steps? It's like 1 or 2 contact marks away from pure perfection. You know, this could have been a $20,000 coin if it wasn't for the fact it had a few contact marks on the steps. Oh, we have a few dimes. Okay, we got 2 Roosevelts ahead of all things. We got 59 proof. A date where, you know, along with all the other 50s, we don't see full frosted cameo contrast, but we have one here in decam and a 69. This thing is straight up gorgeous, you know. So I can imagine the excitement that this particular person had when they cherry picked this out of a proof set. So it's a $2,812.50 sale, but someone probably paid around $40 to own the proof set and just lit up their bank account in a huge way with this big sale on this one. 55D. It's a tough low mintage date. I would say it's a key, but a lot of these were preserved in high grades anyways. This one, however, was preserved in some environment where it facilitated this kind of color. It's just, again, it's cool how that happens. And it's even more cool that someone did not dip this, because that's kind of like a fast reaction of a lot of people. They prefer like blast white, and, you know, The toning is what really paved the way for this one. It's a 68 full bands, which is a very high grade, but it would not get the price tag of $3,712.50 if it wasn't for the fully featured double-sided toning on this coin. And the prettiest coin by far this week, 39D Mercury dime. A kind of just spectacular overall quality specimen as a 68 plus full bands, CAC certed as well. It's spot on for the grade. It's got that beautiful Zorro toning, as we like to call it, or silhouette toning. And it's fully featured on the reverse. $5,250.38. Okay, don't let the date fool you. This is as common as any other Denver coin from the 40s. And we have to kind of shoehorn this one in there. It's been a while since we had one of these West Point quarters eclipse the $1,000 level. So we got this one here, the American Samoa. The first release of 2020 where they featured an actual privy mark on the obverse. That's that V for Victory 75, the 75th anniversary of the end of World War II. All right. This one here is in a 67 PCGS holder. It's part of the first week of discovery, so this thing was found very early on. And I'm happy to say this one ended up selling for $1,181.25. Quick little add-on, the West Point quarter market is a little bit flat right now for raw pieces and anything that grades under 67. Like there's plenty of 64s, 5s, and 6s in the marketplace today in the thousands. And they are kind of like, they have stand pat. They're in that $20 to $50 range in value. And, it might be years on later down the road where these things kind of like become reborn again, rediscovered. So if you guys have a significant kind of holding of this quarter, I would say just hold on to what you have. Don't do any splashy moves unless you really need the money, because these things will have its time in the daylight again. Let's see, we got a couple really, really awesome Standing Liberty quarters, okay? And they're nothing really to beat the bush about. 1918 over 7S. It's the ultimate overdate, probably better than the 42 over 1 Mercury dime, or the 42 over 1 Denver Mercury dime as well. Is the VF35 grade on this? Does that make this one any less important? No. The big kind of selling factor on this one is the readable date and the discernible overdate of that 8 over 7. All right, you can see that plain as day on this one. It's when you get into much lower grades where the value of these kind of like tumble down a little bit. So this one, just as important, everybody wants an example of this coin. And this kind of represents that entry level kind of grade 35 that people love. But $4,500 is not a cheap price tag. And these things will continue to go up in value. It's not like there's an overabundance of these, like the 42 over 1 Mercury dime. There's quite a few of those to fulfill demand these days. But ladies and gentlemen, this one right here, between this and the Buffalo Nickel overdate, I mean, these two are going to be kind of the standard bearers of overdates, for the foreseeable future. And we also, of course, have the ultra rare key 1916 SLQ with a mintage of only 52,000. It is what it is. This one has some issues. It says surfaces smooth by PCGS. I don't know exactly what that means, if there was some sort of tool or something that someone had used to make the fields and all that seem like very flat and satiny. I just don't know what surfaces smooth mean, but it is damage on the coin. But still very important. And the price tag, not greatly affected too badly at $8,015.62 on this one. And then the one coin, ladies and gentlemen, that, some of you probably don't know is only available in a mint set because it was never made for circulation, is a 70D 40%er. It's the last year of that silver composition mix. 67. grade is very, very tough on this one. They really did not give two bleeps about the quality of the last date of silver in candy half dollars as far as an uncirculated piece. So this one, even in an NGC holder, still impressive at $2,331. Wow, it makes me want to cherry pick some of my 70Ds to see if I have one that kind of cuts the mustard. I doubt it, but it's worth a shot. And finally, the Ike dollar market has been just a little bit quiet. Well, from my end, I haven't talked so much about it. But yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at this one. It's a 73D. And, as far as big as these coins are, they're more of a bullseye for contact marks. So when I see one in a 67, it makes me scrutinize it just a little bit more. And I can honestly say that this one is deserved of every bit of that 67 grade. Even has kind of like a mint set kind of haze to it too. Which, some people are indifferent about. Some people just want the blast white, kind of like nickel-y kind of finish to it. But such a tremendous example, and the market did endear itself to it. It sold for $4,600.12. So again, the Ike dollar market, when there's something significant that does pop out for people to kind of sink their teeth into, they're going to pay the world for them. Well, that's it. That comes to a close, guys. Sorry for being way too overly chatty in this one. Now that I got my voice back, I'm kind of like feeling obligated to get caught up here. So, again, information provided today in this video is for entertainment purposes only, not financial advice. Please always do collect and or grade responsibly. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for all of your support here, especially in the last 30 days. As I kind of go back to regaining my voice and my structure and what I'm known to do, man, and that's these things. So thank you guys again for coming on by. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe on the way out. Come check me out on Whatnot tomorrow and on Friday. I'm going to talk about the Gold Rush giveaway. It's open to all of my followers and anybody that comes in. That's it. I'm out of here. You guys have a great rest of your week. Enjoy your Monday night, and I'll see you on the next coin video. So long.